You are now listening to The Couch on 24/7 Miami with your hosts, Chubby Dubby, Clem December,
Big Clem.
December,
It's Clem time.
and your boy Coleman.
Coleman. I've had the most absurd nightmare. I was poor and no one liked me.
Let's go.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Welcome back to The Couch, everybody. We've had some technical difficulties setting up the studio today, so we are coming at you in full-blown high-speed mode from the Pembroke Pines campus of Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Today is January 9th. You are hopefully listening to us on the YouTube app, watching us simulcast on the YouTube app. We are also currently live on 247miami.tv. And you could tune into that on TuneIn, the app. You know what I'm saying? I'm here with my boy Matt Lawson. How you doing today?
Very good, very good. Happy 2018, first time in the studio.
That's right. It's a new year. We're starting off with a bang by breaking all the computers and all the equipment inside the studio.
Yeah.
So
Getting started in literally an hour late.
we didn't break it. Somebody else broke it. We had to fix it, but that's how we roll here. We are going to jump right in to the most current event, which is the national championship game for college football. Did you have a chance to watch it last night?
I did. It was an excellent competition between two very good football teams. It was Alabama again. I mean, what else is new? Alabama playing for a national championship, and a Nick Saban disciple, Kirby Smart. First year at Georgia, second year at Georgia. I think it's a second year.
I think it's the second year.
Yeah, because Rick
Rick's
has been
second
at
year
Miami,
at Miami.
right? Yeah. So second year, got the Dogs to the championship, and it was a heck of a game.
I thought the first half was pretty boring.
It was dominated by Georgia. They were up 13-0 at halftime.
Right.
Looking
And
pretty good.
then, the evil devil himself, Nick Saban, pulls out Tua Tagovailoa out of his bag and says, "You know what? It's the championship game. Let's try something new."
Look, and that is like something like Nick Saban is so conservative because he knows that he can almost win on defense every time. Like he knows his defensive special teams is so good that it makes up for a sometimes inept offense.
Yeah.
And you know that a defensive touchdown or a punt return touchdown is lurking somewhere to get Alabama back in the game. And, and they always have a good running offense. So Alabama's not known for a quarterback, but still it is very much unlike Nick Saban to replace a quarterback, let alone at halftime of the national championship game.
The biggest game of the season. It's pretty crazy.
And so, everyone talks about what the heck Nick Saban did. Like he made a deal with the devil.
Yeah. Well, he is the devil, so he made a deal with himself.
I guess so. And man, this is just another he really did sell his soul for this to work out. And to pull out this freshman kid who looks like he's 16 years old.
Yeah.
Post game, he looks like he's 16 years old. He's a lefty. He just slings it. And so that was crazy. And at halftime, that move, it got Alabama back into the game. He sparked the offense. And Georgia kind of went conservative.
Georgia went Georgia.
But, yeah, Georgia went Georgia. That's the thing. Kirby Smart is getting criticized for going conservative. Oh, he, of all people, should know how to beat Alabama is to not go conservative and to keep throwing it and slinging it down the field and go high-tempo offense because you want to keep them on their heels. But at the same time, Georgia's two best players on the whole team are running backs.
Right.
So I'm not gonna criticize them for sticking with that. But at the same time, you have to recognize, okay, are you really going to try and do the one thing that Alabama is best at stopping?
Right.
And I understand your running backs are your best assets, but that's Alabama's best asset.
Right. And they're also starting a freshman at quarterback. You know what I mean? Like,
that was a huge storyline last night too, was all the true freshmen running around the field scoring touchdowns.
Right.
Number 4 for Georgia scored twice, the deep bomb, and and the quarterback.
Yeah.
So he's a freshman. Fromm's a freshman. Tuiolo blah 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 is a freshman.
Right.
The kid who caught the game-winning touchdown's a freshman.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Overall, it was a good game. This is where we start to go off the rails a little bit because we're going to talk about the actual, the process of the selection of who it was that was playing in the playoffs and why UCF. I mean, why weren't they there? And what happened with all that stuff? So Alabama, I think, proved they were the best team and they deserve to be crowned the college football champion. I mean, it's kind of obvious to me. They smashed Clemson, who was number 1 at the time. They beat Georgia, who, is the SEC champion. And they proved that in my mind, I don't see how you can say that Alabama is probably not the best college football team this season. But they probably shouldn't have been in the playoff.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I don't agree with that. I think that they're a one-loss team that literally lost the only game that could have kept them out of the SEC championship.
Right.
I mean, had they lost to anyone else, had their one loss been to anyone else and they beat Auburn, they'd have been in the SEC championship.
Correct.
So they lost the only game they couldn't lose, and it was, and then Auburn goes on to lose the SEC championship game. There was a lot there. I think the committee kind of knew, like, we can't blame sides. UCF. Every other team in the country had slipped up at least one time. So I think that's why. And Bama gets the benefit of the doubt. If you're between two one-loss teams, Bama, Ohio State, everyone know Ohio State had 2 losses.
Right.
Bama, Bama's going to get the benefit of the doubt. Here's the thing about UCF. Look at UCF now after they beat Auburn, who beat both of those 2 teams.
Correct.
Right? They beat Auburn pretty handedly. So now it looks like, yeah, maybe they should have been in the college football playoff. But before the selection committee came out and before all the bowl games were set, I don't know if I would have put UCF in there because they did win a conference that we've seen Houston go 13-1 and flirt with an undefeated season. We've seen Boise State, flirt with undefeated seasons. I don't think anyone ever thought that those teams were top 4 teams in the country. And really, UCF, it's a hindsight thing where now we've seen them beat Auburn. But I don't think if I was in the committee, I would have put them in the playoff.
I don't disagree with that. Like, I think that's a valid point. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. When we go and see them beat Auburn, who beat Alabama, then you're able to qualify that. But a lot of people didn't think that they were even going to be able to hang with Auburn. They thought that they were going to get smashed. But my point wasn't necessarily that they belonged to be in or that they deserved to be in more than Alabama did. It was just that the system is flawed. So when they created the college football playoff, part of what they were talking about was you have to play for a conference championship in order to be able to get into it. You know what I mean? That's why everybody was clamoring to try to join a conference.
Is there a black and white set of rules?
No, and that's the point.
Right. So I don't want to hear that they said you have to play for a conference championship.
But they did say it.
But unless there's a set of rules, they can't be held to anything.
But that's the problem.
Right.
That's part of the problem. So then why do teams have to join a conference? Why was UCF and USF saying, okay, fine, please let us in the Big 12? And the Big 12 said, you know what? We're not going to split the pie 14 ways. We're going to keep it 12 ways. And that's who was it? The Big 10 never used to have a championship, did they?
It's confusing now. The Big 12 is in the South. It used to be the Big 10. They always had a game. The Big 10 is in the North, which is the old Big 12. They didn't have a game.
They used to not have a championship game.
Up north,
it would
they
just
didn't.
end. Right.
Right.
It would end Ohio State, Michigan at the end of the season, and it would more than likely whoever won that one was
conference champion.
The quote unquote conference championship. Right. They never had one. They had to get one because the committee was like, you got to have one for the strength of schedule.
You're right.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that overall, what needs to happen is we need to, and this is, hopefully. And I think that this is part of the reason with what Danny White, the athletic director, for saying like, hey, we are the national champions. I mean, they had a parade in Disney World and everything like that, which I'm fine with it. I don't care. I don't like the whole like, oh, college football is sacred. You can't claim national titles. It's been going on since the 40s. Okay?
Oh yeah, when back in the 80s,
Auburn
they would have
Auburn.
AP national championship, AP national champions, and college poll national
Yeah,
champions.
they would have split ones depending on which poll it was. So I'm fine with all that. Like, obviously, it doesn't mean what you think it means because you didn't win the trophy and you didn't run the bracket. Like, you didn't go through the actual tournament. But hopefully, what this does is maybe. I don't even know if it will, though, because I feel like UCF would have to repeat in order to maybe like enact some change. Maybe say like, like we should expand it to 8. And that way we will have the Power 5 conference champions, all 5 of them. We'll have, maybe some runners up for the conference championships. And we'll take a non-Power 5 school who wins their conference handily and goes, 12-0 and say, hey, guess what? You're the 8th seed. You're going to have to beat the number 1 seed to continue in this tournament, but at least you have a chance.
At least you have a chance.
You know what I mean? We will never know if UCF could have handled Alabama. We will never know.
Right. And some, I've heard people saying even still, like the SEC championship was almost it was a playoff game.
Right.
Whoever won that game was going to get into the college football championship.
Right.
And the ACC championship game was technically a play-in game because Miami or Clemson, winner of that game, was getting in.
Right.
So some people will argue that there are technically more rounds of the playoffs because probably every year the SEC championship game is going to be a play-in game.
Yeah, but it's.
I know.
It leaves people out, and there's always going to leave people out. If we expand it to 8 teams, there's going to be the 9th team. Then why didn't we get in? I understand it, but I just think that like for the sake of the little guy, to be able to have a chance to get in here, like what else could UCF have done this season? And they were 12th at the end of it before the bowl game. You know what I mean?
Right. And they still only finished 6th.
Right.
Which Ohio State they put a team, I'm surprised I thought they would finish 5.
Yeah.
Behind every team that made the playoffs.
Right.
But they put them 6, which is, I know, one last little jab by the.
And I was discussing this with my friends too. Like I went to UCF. I have a lot of UCF friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I've heard.
Yeah. So they're saying, oh, like what if we go undefeated next year? We're going to get invited to it. And I'm like, yo, you just made fun of the committee and said like what they say doesn't matter. We're going to have our own national championship. Like they can run the table again. They're not getting invited next year.
I don't agree with that. If they run the table again, they'll be invited.
It's like, well, they're not going to anyways because they lost the entirety of their coaching staff.
Yeah.
But
also I saw that so you mentioned, and I saw this, that they were at Disney World.
Yeah.
But on the Le Batard show, they want to present to them like a trophy and like have an event, but the UCF administration denied it. So, which I don't understand, ESPN, Disney Corporation in Orlando wants to fund this, national championship ceremony for UCF, and UCF administration won't allow it, yet they'll let their kids go march in a parade in Orlando claiming to be national champions.
I would have to see the particulars of that because I don't know if necessarily Disney was 100% behind it. Like I understand Le Batard worked for it, but like.
Well, this morning on the show, he was talking about how we've got this funding to do this, and it's from the Disney Corporation. I don't know, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know what all this is just great national exposure for UCF.
Oh yeah.
This is all free ESPN exposure.
Right.
So hopefully this will help them in recruiting.
And that's part of what it was is like, look, you know what I mean? Hey, Shaquille Griffin's really good. He was defensive player of the Peach Bowl, defensive MVP. And his brother actually plays for the Seahawks. Do you think that he will get drafted at all?
6th or 7th round. Dude, I feel like the NFL is real cutthroat about stuff like that. Like there's so much talent that
it's not even necessarily that I think that he wouldn't be able to make it. Like I definitely think that he could at least contribute to a team. You know what I mean? He
could definitely contribute to a team, but at the NFL level, there are so many players that are so good that he is gonna be at such a disadvantage.
It's not just that. I think that a GM is not going to risk it. You know what I mean? Like
health risks and like.
Well, no,
what if something happens? Or
no, like you're the GM of a team. You have a very limited, finite opportunity for the players that you're going to draft, and you're going to spend it on him.
And then he doesn't pan out, and now you're the GM that drafted a guy with one arm.
Exactly.
So, and that is a shame because he is very good. But like I said, there are so many good players. I never even know like even if he has 2 arms, he may not make it in the NFL.
Yeah.
So it is. It's a very high risk with, who knows how much reward for a GM.
You never know.
Okay, so we will. I don't know, we have a short show here, so I don't know what we should do.
Let's segue. Let's go right to the NFL.
Right to the NFL. Okay.
So the NFL playoffs were this past weekend.
Kicked off wild card weekend.
The first game was the Titans and the Chiefs.
So that game was another blown lead by Andy Reid and the Chiefs. He's the only coach in NFL history to blow 2 18-point playoff leads.
Oh, really?
There's actually only been 4 18-point 18-point second half leads.
Yeah.
There's been 4 blown in the history of the playoffs. Andy Reid's got 2 of them.
Nice.
So
shout out Andy Reid.
So Chiefs, man, what a roller coaster year, and their year and their playoff game were the same. Completely high, all the way down low, and that's how their playoff game went.
Right.
Up 21-3, and Marcus Mariota, who I still don't trust. I mean, he's 13 touchdowns for 15 against 15 interceptions on the year, although he does throw touchdowns to himself.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive. Titans offense is pretty much only Derrick Henry, which I saw this before the game or during the week that we're going to rule out DeMarco Murray for the game.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, like, I don't think there could be anything better for the Titans.
Oh, yeah,
like, he is just clogging up that offense.
Yeah.
Just let Derrick Henry run.
Give Derrick Henry the ball 25 times.
So you saw what Derrick Henry had 23 carries for 156 yards and a touchdown. So DeMarco Murray out is probably the best thing that could happen for the Titans. But again, is Eric Decker their best wide receiver? I don't even know who catches the ball. Delaney Walker. Yeah, your tight end's your best receiver.
Yeah, and next up they get the Patriots.
So
in Foxborough.
Next up for Titans is bad loss at Pats.
Yeah.
Second game of the wild card round was Falcons at Rams,
Correct.
Which I thought would be a lot better. It was a good game. It wasn't a blowout, but the Falcons kind of stymied. The Falcons defense looks really good.
It looks a lot better.
They look really fast. It's like the Saints defense,
right?
Vastly improved.
And like the Rams had some blunders, like Pharaoh Cooper had a few mistakes that they just they couldn't overcome. You know what I mean? Like the Rams needed to play like a near perfect game in order to be able to hang with the Falcons, and they just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But they're a young team, you know? Jared Goff, it's the second year. It's the head coach's first year.
Yeah.
It's Todd Gurley's third year technically, but the first year he didn't play a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like I think that they're a young squad, and I think that they have a bright future.
They do, and that defense is also very good.
Right. They just need to stop mixing the white Ram helmets with the yellow Ram embroideries.
Yeah.
Like, hey, pick one. What are you doing?
Yeah. So
up next, Falcons get the Eagles.
Up next, Falcons at Eagles.
Which I don't know what to think.
All right, here's what I wrote down. Defense and at home could keep Eagles close. Plays well, they can definitely win. So I think the Eagles team is so good that if Nick Foles just doesn't lose it, they could win that game. Like that, they could win that game 24-21 if Nick Foles could get them in the end zone a few times. I don't think you stop the Falcons from scoring 3 times, but if you keep them to 21 points, and Nick Foles, like that defense that Falcons defense might score a touchdown. Like that defense, they have really good weapons. Aguilar, Ajayi, Alshon Jeffries, Aguilar,
Nelson Aguilar.
What is it?
It's Aguilar.
Aguilar.
He's from Africa, not Costa Rica.
Ertz. So that team's really good. So I think they might be able to pull it off. Although I do like the Falcons right now. They're a hot team.
Yeah. And the first game where Foles played in relief of Carson Wentz, it was like, wow, like maybe it's just a plug and play. But then like the next game we saw, it wasn't exactly that. And he didn't do as well. Like so that we could see them at full strength. I really do. I don't think that the Eagles are going to fare very well much longer in the playoffs.
If Carson Wentz was still in, I have them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, that's what I wrote. If Nick Foles plays well, they can definitely win.
Okay, well, I agree.
I feel like that might be the case for almost every team. If your quarterback plays well, you can definitely win.
Yeah. Jags Bills. We had a barn burner here.
Yeah, all right.
10-3 Jags.
A real chess match of defense and field position.
Yeah.
Is what this one was.
Blake Bortles finished with under 100 yards passing.
Blake Bortles finished with more rushing yards than passing yards.
Correct.
89 to 85. He's the first player to do that in the playoffs since Michael Vick had more rushing yards than passing yards. But I'm pretty sure in that game, Michael Vick had like 170 rushing yards.
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is this Jags Steelers game coming up because the Jags did already beat
Week 5
beat the Steelers 30-9 in Pittsburgh.
in Pittsburgh, where they'll be again. The weather was a lot different, but
So what has me hung up here is Jacksonville's pass defense is really good. So what happened last game was Big Ben threw like 5 interceptions,
right.
and had himself questioning in the locker room after the game. He was like doing a stream of consciousness. He's like, I don't know, maybe I don't have it.
Right.
And so that's what that Jags defense did to him. Le'Veon Bell. So can you stop the pass and the run?
And is Le'Veon Bell healthy?
What is he healthy?
Yeah.
I didn't know I didn't know that was a question.
No, I'm asking.
Last I've heard, he was healthy.
He didn't play in the last game of the season.
Oh, none of them played.
Oh yeah.
Antonio Brown looks healthy.
Antonio Brown is the one who got hurt, right?
Yeah.
Later on in the season.
Yes.
Okay.
So Antonio Brown looks healthy, and I don't trust
Jake Bortles.
Jake Bortles.
Blake's older brother.
I don't trust Jake Bortles.
Yeah. Well, Jake Bortles, I think, is going to have a pretty bad day. Probably going to throw a lot of interceptions. We'll see, though. I mean, I would like to see the Jags win. If only for just Jags, so that it's a different team than Pittsburgh.
And the Jags do have the recipe for playoffs, which is good defense and a guy you can hand it to 40 times.
Right.
So we'll see about that. And then what was the best game? I think we all knew it was going to be the best game. Was Panthers Saints. Absolutely love a division rivalry in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that game was very good. It was a shootout. Saints had the lead. Panthers had the lead. Saints retook the lead.
The Panthers actually never had the lead in the game. It was wire-to-wire Saints victory, but they answered almost every score. So if the Saints scored a touchdown, Panthers kicked the field goal. Saints scored a touchdown, Panthers. You know what I mean? Like they scored
right
very often, but they never did take a lead.
All right, semantics.
But it was a close game. The Saints stifled a late comeback by the Panthers. The Panthers looked like they were surging there in the fourth quarter, and they were maybe going to get something going. And then, after the final touchdown to the white dude McCaffrey, was that the final one? I think
for the Panthers.
Yeah.
What happened with this game, which is what been saying all year with this Saints running game, how good it's been. What's going to happen is someone's going to stop it. Breeze, and he's going to light you up for almost 400, which is what he did. 376 passing yards. Panthers did a good job stopping that dynamic duo of Ingram and Kamara. And Drew Brees went like 26 of 36. Michael Thomas was a monster, 8 catches for 131 yards. He was all over the field. So that's what's dangerous about the Saints. And because I mentioned Eagles and Wentz, and how well the Saints look right now, I do have the Saints advancing through the Vikings. And I have them advancing through the Vikings, and that's my NFC Super Bowl pick entering the playoffs. Good, and Drew Brees looks like Drew Brees, which is, I'm telling you, that's if you have to worry about that running game and Drew Brees can still do that. Yeah, that's dangerous.
I think that the Vikings are going to present a problem for them. It's a lot different teams than faced in week 2, which Minnesota won the game pretty handily. But
no, week 1,
week 2, whatever, week 1. But they had Dalvin Cook. The Vikings had Dalvin Cook. The Vikings also started Sam Bradford. The Saints still had Adrian Peterson. Alvin Kamara wasn't exactly involved that much. You know what I mean? Like,
totally
they're different teams. So it's hard to say, but I think that we haven't seen what it's going to be in Minnesota.
Here's what I wrote for this game. Defense at home could keep Vikings close. If Case Keenum plays well, they can definitely win.
There you go.
So it's the same thing as the Eagles, where the quarterback is a question. But if the quarterback wasn't a question, I'd really like the team.
Right.
But the quarterback is a question where, you have a very good defense and a running game that can run the ball. Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon have been very have been very good in Dalvin Cook's absence.
Right.
I don't think Case Keenum is going to be able to hang with Drew Brees.
Okay. Well, this was a rushed show. Do you have any other pertinent information that you want to squeeze in here really quick?
I mean, go Heat. They're 5 games above 500. They've won 4 in a row.
Right. Going for the 5th tonight and against the Raptors in Toronto.
If the way I look at it is rest of the year, they're 5 games above 500. So if the rest of the year ball or 2 games above, if they end up at between 5 and 7 games above 500, they're easily a 6 to 4 seed.
Okay.
So
I agree.
They're right where they want to be.
Right.
Play 500 ball the rest of the year, and you're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Show, next show we'll give you the whole thing. We had some technical difficulties to figure out. This show was brought to you by the Dolphins Cancer Challenge, launched in 2010 as the signature initiative of the Miami Dolphins Foundation. The DCC is a way all of us can be cancer fighters. 100% of participant-raised funds goes to innovative cancer research at Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center. Go to dolphinscancercenterchallenge.com for more details. And actually, I'm going to be racing in the race on February 10th, 2018.
I hope you win.
You can, I'm biking like 35 miles down 95. I think it ends at Dolphin Stadium. If you go to It's Coleman on Twitter, you can find the link to donate to my team page. Guys, there.
All right.